Hi guys, welcome back to TNG Productions. My name is Tom and I'm joined by Colin from Battle Systems.
Hey Tom,
I would say welcome, but you welcome me here. It's lovely to be back. So
good.
we're going to be talking about Maladum, which is a double whammy actually. You've got kind of a new game, but also a lot of terrain that is coming with this. So I'll let you take the lead with this. What's the elevator pitch? What is Maladum then?
Okay, so Maladum is a fantasy skirmish game which kind of also lives in a kind of an RPG kind of environment as well. So the RPG elements kind of happen before and in between games, you know, where you'll go travelling and you'll staying in and, you know, you buy and you trade your items and everything. But all those kind of role-playing choices you make there then allow you to have a really fast-packed skirmish game where you're not delving through loads of rules and so Maladum is this really nice skirmish game that's kind of fast to play, but at the end of each battle, adventure, you've got this lovely kind of constant progression of your characters, and some of your characters are going to die, for God forbid, and so you're going to have to hire new ones.
You might persuade people to join your cause though as you go as well.
Well, we do, yeah. You're going to encounter lots of different, lost travellers and all sorts of different things. So there might be an opportunity where someone will join you for free, you know. So, but yeah, you've got this really nice, fast play fantasy skirmish game, obviously in a lovely three-dimensional environment. So fully immersive kind of experience.
So speaking of which, this is kind of like the company has ebbed and flowed in between fantasy and sci-fi. I think it started off with a kind of like sci-fi Kickstarter and a fantasy one. Then we had the big fantasy release of The Village and the Northern Settlement. Yeah. But this is the first game that is kind of coming in with this fantasy setting. So what challenges have been posed with that? Because obviously you've got the experience with Core Space. Yep. A lot of people ask Core Space and Maladum, what are the differences, what are the similarities? So is there anything that has been brought into Maladum that is either familiar or not familiar from previous entries? Yeah,
sure. So for anyone who's actually played Core Space, they're going to be able to kind of walk into this game and it's just going to feel absolutely at home from, if you like, the core mechanics, the kind of the physics of the world. Yeah. But Maladum's actually been kind of rewritten from the ground up, following those rules to make sure that it feels utterly like a fantasy environment. So we haven't just like reskinned an old game, as it were. And so you really do get this really nice fantasy vibe. If you've not played Core Space, first of all, you need to play it. That'd be great for me. But if you've not played Core Space, it doesn't matter, because if you're just into fantasy, Core Space players will let you know that you can pick the game up so quickly, because it's just got this, like I say, this fast. You're not trawling through books. We do like really good quick start guides and stuff like that just get you playing really, really instantly. And one of the things that makes it really easy to play is that you don't, as you go through your dungeon, you're picking up, finding equipment. If you need to use a particular weapon, for example, all the stats you need are on the weapon in your dashboard. Yeah. So you're not...
you're literally having an inventory space in your dashboard. You can see what you've got at all times. You're not flicking through rule book to look at the items.
So there's none of this like, oh, my weapon strength is this, what's your arm value, let's check the table, and then... It's like you do that and then right now you need to roll to save.
Yeah, it's on this character, I know what it does.
Exactly that. So I look and be like, okay, so I'm going to hit you with my, quarterstaff. It tells me I'm rolling 2 dice. I roll the 2 dice. They're custom dice.
Job done.
And it's like I look at your armor. You're like, okay, subtract 1. You've lost a health, and it's over quickly. So I'm on to my next action, and whether we're playing player versus player, cooperatively, or just playing against the game solo, you will have a very fast experience.
Well, this is it. We keep saying play, but so you've mentioned 3 different kind of forms of how this plays. Do you want to give us a brief overview about how it can function? Because I imagine a lot of people are going to pick this up for a variety of uses. Either they're playing on their own, or they have a group of friends. And like you said, there's almost like a campaign system. So what are the different kind of modes?
Okay, so first of all, we're gonna approach this the same we have with our second Core Space game, which is Firstborn. So when you get it, you're going to get a crew in the box, and you'll be able to play that through the campaign solo. Yeah. Okay. So it's a solo experience. You can also play that cooperatively by splitting up your party into different characters, and you can have a couple of characters each.
These, yeah.
Exactly. But of course, we're going to have loads of extra travel and adventure bands, and you'll be able to, if we wanted to play player versus player, we can absolutely go in after the same objective whilst also kind of fighting back the AI of the board. The AI of the board always happens regardless of our play style.
Yeah.
The great thing is, though, is that, and this is the experience that people find amazing with Core Space, Maladum has the same kind of approach, which is, if we're going to start a game and it's player versus player, we're after the same objective, we're going to probably be taking pot shots at each other and have, there's going to be some sword play, there's going to be some ruckus.
Fireballs.
Yeah, fireballs, yeah. We can't create fire, but there's little torches around, so we can kind of use that fire if we need to. But what happens is that often what happens is that at some point the game ramps up to the point where you and I are kind of like, you know what, we need to stop.
There's bigger problems than us.
Yeah, we're going to die. So we end up having this kind of cooperative agreement. It's like, look, we're all going to die, or we can work together. And so we start to fight back the game. And then this is where we start having conversations like, okay, well, look, let's fight back this, but just let me have access to that too.
This room is a problem. Let's deal with that first. And
exactly. And there's handshakes going on. It'd be like, well, I really want the stuff in that chest. Like, let's just have this thing. I'll leave that alone. I'll leave you alone. And so, and sometimes you might even get trapped, and it'd be like, I can't get off the board because I'm surrounded. And I say, like, you come back through the entrance that I've found into this.
You come back out with us. We'll help. We'll show you a way out.
And maybe if you're really desperate, I'll be like, I'll do it, but I want
give me
this composite bow or something like that. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And so
there's going to be some agreements made as you're going through this. There's going to be a lot of parlay.
There is, yeah. And so the dynamics change. And I've certainly had plenty of campaigns where I've kind of played with someone, and we started off player versus player, and by about sort of mission in Core Space, it'd be mission in Maladum, by about sort of quest sort of 3, 4 or 5, it's like the whole dynamic is, we tend to go in cooperatively because we've helped each other so much, and the missions the quests are getting so difficult. And
has there been any big fallings out with the backstab later on in the game, though? Has there been a sneaky little kind of knife to the ribs as you've gone past?
Absolutely, yeah, it does. But again, that's remembered. If you're playing a campaign with somebody else, then that is definitely remembered. So you've got to decide your play style, I guess. Choose
how you're going to be. Am I right in thinking that the way the game has been designed as well, you've got kind of like what is essentially, I would call it like a tracker, like a threat tracker here.
Yeah.
You've got there are 2 different variants that it can either ramp up slowly, or it can kind of be busy, then calm, then busy again. Like the game can actually kick back different ways.
Yeah, so we have got this the dread track, which as you go through the game, you slowly kind of put pegs into it,
and just life gets worse the higher it goes.
And it's so the way it's set at the moment, it's slowly, progressively. The longer you stay in there, the more you're attracting. Every time you use magic as well, you'd spend a magic peg. That the first time you use it in any turn goes in here as well.
Because they're attracted.
They're attracted by the magic itself.
Who is this AI faction? We haven't even introduced them yet.
Okay, so the AI faction are the Revenants. Yeah. And they're kind of are reanimated. So we've got a Malagaunt. So we've got Maladar. We've got the game's Maladum. The people that use magic are Maladar. Yeah. But we've also got Malagaunts, which are the people that mess around with the dark magic, the forbidden magic. And so what they do is they're kind of hiding out in these dungeons. And you are they can bring back people from the dead, and so they're raising, and they'll raise up the ground around you, or they'll come in from spawn points around you. So
you've got to be careful around tombs.
You've got to be careful around tombs and grave points and so on and so forth. And so they're kind of like your main. They're your main threat.
Yeah.
In addition to that, though, we've got things like wandering beasts. So, for example, you might come
really
across
cool.
like a Drakon, which is kind of a big attack beast. We've got Troglodyte, who's going to come in, who's not necessarily going to attack you all the time. He'll go to, if he's in a room with no enemies, he will go and rob the tomb before you get there, or rob the chest, because he's kind of a hoarder, and he'll be hoarding stuff away, which is really frustrating when they rob a thing and when they take it out. It's like, oh my God, there's a rare item in there, I really want that.
Do you have to fight him for it? Or?
Well, if you can get to him in time, you can fight him for it, absolutely. And we've got things like cankers, which are like little spidery things, which are really small, but they can kind of move really fast and surround you. And they're actually blind, but they're attracted by magic, so they'll kind of move towards the.
And this feeds in this idea of you putting that peg in each time, because you're attracting the revenants, you're attracting trouble.
And the higher it gets, A little bit like core space, it gets to that point where you're like, you know what? At some point, you just need to cut your losses and run, because maybe you didn't get the objective. And when I play Maladum, often what happens is I don't, 50% of the time I don't get the objective.
Yeah.
But it means, the game is never lost, because when I come out, I have found lots of equipment.
Yeah.
And so I've probably found some equipment. I'm like, you know what? That trumps my sword now, and this is better. Yeah. This sword's now got the ability to wound or clean.
This,
and anything I don't want, I then sell off, and I can buy new equipment between games and learn new skills and advance my characters. So when I go in again, even though I didn't get the objective, I still feel like I've won, because my band is kind of stronger.
The win conditions are what you make it, even though there are objectives each game. Just getting out and surviving will sometimes be a win.
Absolutely. And you know what? If I don't get the objective, I get out, I still get all my cool stuff, and I can still upgrade stuff like that. But what might happen is I now can't play the next mission. So because I didn't get the thing, maybe I didn't divert the water, so now I can't get to the village.
You missed an opportunity to do the thing.
So I'm kind of pulled off on the side campaign, Or sometimes there'd be a side campaign that you've just got a choice. Maybe you can or can't do it, and you're like, you know what? I just really want to plow down the middle and get this story done. But by not doing it, maybe I didn't kill the troll over here, and maybe in mission
it's going to cause troll's going to turn up.
Yeah, so you've constantly got this balance of like, do I want to do it? Don't I want to do it? And sometimes you're forced to, because you didn't get the objective. So there's still consequences.
Well, this is the fascinating part. I know we're still very much in the early kind of stages of the game, but such a focus in many different systems now on a campaign style. Now you almost have a leg up, because Core Space is well known for kind of creating a big flowing narrative.
It is.
How will it function with Maladum? Are you going to have set modules obviously included in the core box, but are there things that will be released over time? Is it this idea that you're going to have a wider village or a wider world, or is
sure? Yeah, so it's going to follow that that same kind of flow that Core Space has. Yeah. So with Core Space, Maladum being the same, it's all about locations. So we've got a huge galaxy. If we talk digress very slightly to Core Space, you've got this huge galaxy which is kind of this big, and then Core Space is set in a huge area in the galaxy which is actually tiny, but that's huge, because a megaparsec is like this massive amount of space, and a kiloparsec, sorry, and Core Space is set in, I think, 32 kiloparsecs, which is just mind-bogglingly big. Then we've got our second Core Space game, which is actually set in another part of the galaxy, is set over here, and you can travel via this gate, but it's all in the same galaxy. And so Core Space is a location game, which means that expansions are about filling out a location, or filling out you've got like the Galactic Police or Police, or you've got like a gang expansion which brings the gangs in, and they all integrate in with the core game. Maladum will be the same, and in fact Maladum's actually set in the same galaxy as Core Space. Really? But it's just so far removed from it that it was once this huge kind of advanced civilization, slightly more advanced almost than Core Space, and they kind of messed with like a nanotechnology. As with all things, exactly. Yeah. You bring your own demise, don't you? It's the great filter, as it were. And what happens is that the nanites attack everything, buildings a lot, and it just literally destroys it. And there's been a few civilizations up and down, but one of the classes in Core Space is the Augmented Class, and they actually have nanites in the blood, which is great. This civilization did the same thing. They had two types of nanites. They had like a nanite which was stored information in like pure light, and then there was another nanite that was put into your genetic makeup, and it would it help you heal better, and it help you do stuff, and because your DNA's changed, it means that your offspring benefit from it. When that civilization falls, the survivors, as they've gone through, and it's been, a good 10,000 years gone, the two types of nanites have kind of merged into this organic one, and that is what magic is. Magic is in the blood. Yeah. And so obviously these guys activating a very, very ancient technology. Absolutely, but these guys have got no idea, because this has gone through, magic, that kind of medieval thing, and to them it's just magic. And so you have got so this is just another location in our Core Space universe, and so this is set in a dungeon, but you'll see with the core game and the lore that we'll have another one that will be set in kind of like a village.
Yeah.
And you can take, like core space, you can take this out and you can put it. Your Maladum can be set in here, but you can also set it in our fantasy terrain, for example.
Yeah. That's screaming for just amazing scenarios, isn't it?
And it's compatible because when I'm designing all the little chests and things and bits and bobs.
I recognise that.
Yeah. For our fantasy terrain, I made sure they're fully compatible with Maladum because Maladum's been on the cards for some time.
Yeah.
So from a flexibility point of view, expansions and future play, we'll do things like core space. We have mission Mondays, so we'll probably have quest Tuesdays or something for Maladum. So a lot of continued support, which is
that's
great.
one massive thing that you guys do. There's a huge amount of like unpaid, like free to available support that comes with this. If you're playing Maladum, are you finding these quests in the local tavern? Are you going to your local kind of notice board, or is it just some herald is shouting you to go meet your local ruler and go and do this stuff?
It could be any or all of those. So core box, you're going to have a campaign. It's going to be a nice narrative campaign. Like I say, you can go through it linear. If you get in the objectives, you can go through it linear if you can. Sometimes you're going to be pulled off and you could do more missions or less missions, depending on how you want to play it. But what happens is in between the games as well, you literally do. I mean, one of the phases is the rest phase in between.
Yeah.
Now, if I've got 3 party members, I could just choose to kind of not pay any money between games and just sleep in the woods.
Yeah.
That's fine. I can do that. There could be consequences. I could get robbed. I could lose something. Someone could get like bitten and poisoned in the night. There's things like that.
The worst bug bites.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or I can stay at a tavern. Now it's going to cost me, a few guilders per per party member. Yeah, absolutely. But you know what? I'm not going to get attacked. I'm not going to get robbed. Yeah. But there's other things that might happen. I might have a bit of a drunken party and meet a guy who tells me about this other thing, and that might unlock a quest. It might, do something like that. So there's lots of opportunities between games to kind of pick up stuff. But also while you're playing, what can often happen is you'll get a wandering adventurer. So I mentioned troglodytes and beasts, wandering monsters are coming. But you also get other adventurers just like you that just wander into the game. And what happens is that they might come in, they might be lost. You might go and talk to them. If you can persuade them, you can join the party. But they might then give you a side quest, and that side quest might be like, I'm actually here because I've lost this rare item, and it's hidden in one of these things. At which point you would.
That's dangerous when you've got the revenants kind of coming in. It's just push you one room further. Can you just help me search this one room? But then there's a tide coming and we're going to die. I kind of want to help you.
And often the tipping point is that you go for that one extra thing, and that's one extra round. You overstretch, and that's normally what loses you a party member. And like you mentioned with the dread track where it ramps up, there is another side where as you come in, it actually comes in really strong, and it's kind of full on, which is kind of not too bad because at least you've got some reasonable health. You're fresh, but just when you're just like, oh my god, I haven't handled the objective yet. I've only searched like a couple of areas. Then it kind of goes down on a lull. And you're like, right, objective, find as much kit as we can. Yeah. Your characters can do a rest where they can rest and restore magic pegs and things like that. And so, and then you're off, and before it then ramps up again. But when it ramps up again, it's back in strong.
It's bad news.
So there's always this kind of balance of, if I go there, I could find something rare, and that's worth a lot of money, and that can really help your crew, your party, kind of, as it were, between games. But maybe you get it, but then you lose a party member over here because you stay too long, and it's kind of
you've also got the event cards that can just screw you at any moment, haven't you? That kind of come in.
You have, and the event cards are like core space. Event cards can be quite vicious. There's pit traps and all sorts of different things, that swinging blade traps, and there's the Maladum, who's not even on the board through probably the first part. Still has an influence, so he can influence those on there to have more powerful magical attacks. So the event deck can be quite aggressive, which is one of our things that we do.
It sounds kind of infinitely replayable though, because you've got all these options, these decisions that you're constantly making, both in game and out of game. It feels like you could run through this even solo but cooperatively as well, and you have a completely different experience with someone else making different decisions than you. Or
yes, it happens quite a lot in core space actually. Is people go in and play the included campaign. I think it's a 10 mission campaign in that, and then they go back and play it again.
It's just completely different.
It's a completely different story because it could be you're playing with a different player and you've got a different play style.
Yeah.
Even playing it solo, just different things happen. Also, if you've got like an expansion and you kind of when we do expansions, what we do is we kind of shuffle in the mechanics into the deck, so the deck grows. I think core space starts with like 20 event deck, but I think there's close to 48 cards in total.
So the familiar starting dungeon could suddenly become something very different when you've got an expansion. There's event cards knocking around in there.
Absolutely. And so just using core space as an example, I've been in many a mission in core space where I'm like, I think after, I've got an experienced crew, but I'm going to lose them. It's quite upsetting because I've been with them for some time.
Attached to this group.
I do, and I'm just looking for any way to get out of it. And then I'll pull because when I play core space, I've got the expansion.
Just have everything.
I just shuffle everything in, and then suddenly a gang are coming, and they're like real toe rags.
Yeah.
But when there's a lot of enemies, they're against them as well.
Yeah.
And so they occupy the enemy, and there's this huge fight going on. And while they're distracted, it's like, my God, I can run, I can run. So you're kind of like running out, and suddenly the tide turns.
So in the original box, you'd be on Doom Death Door, but suddenly now that's twisted it.
It is.
You suddenly get a new way.
And that's where you're kind of running back to your
staging area.
Yeah, your staging area. You're running back to your staging area, and you run past the room. You're like, ooh,
shiny.
Unopened tomb. I know that there's certain stuff that comes in tombs that doesn't come in chests, and it's like, oh, shall I, shan't I? I've learned not to do that, but most players will be like, well,
we all will.
So it's good. Yeah.
I think the final thing I wanted to discuss, obviously, the terrain itself. You've posted pictures. I can just see like this giant multi-tiered beauty in the background here,
yes,
which we'll put some photos up of. The terrain is so huge with battle systems. Like, you've really kind of got a very strong part of the market now that are super excited for each new release.
Yep.
Could you talk to kind of the mentality, the thinking, the changes that have came with Maladum's design? Now you're going back to what was very much the early days, this kind of dungeon style, multi-tiered levels and all this kind of stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think our second product ever, 8 or 9 years ago, was a dungeon.
Yeah.
Okay, we had a sci-fi battle station and we did a dungeon. Really popular. We discontinued it about 3 years ago on the basis that this stuff was coming and so on and so forth. And we just had like non-stop, please do a dungeon, please do a dungeon, please do the so we did the fantasy terrain, and we did like that was brilliant.
Did that just make the call louder though, because that went down so
absolutely
well?
It really did, and everyone's like, oh my God, this is amazing, we didn't expect this, but where's my dungeon? So obviously this comes with a dungeon, and we'll have this as a separate terrain set as well, if it, without the gaming components, if you like.
Yeah, there's going to be some RPG people who are like, oh, a gridded mat and terrain that's already ready to go.
Absolutely, to play with my game, yeah, absolutely. But we've also got our beautiful multi-level dungeon.
Yeah.
Now, like I say, our second product was a multi-level dungeon, but this is like night and day.
How has it changed? Like, what's? I mean, obviously you've got almost 10 years worth of experience to go with it, but are there things now that were unimaginable 10 years ago, 8 years ago?
Yeah. So absolutely, and that could be everything from getting our manufacturers to the point where they can have the correct engineering, the correct tooling to do it. The tolerances that we work through on our tooling are so immense that every time we do a show, we get approached by multiple manufacturers who are kind of looking at us and going, okay,
can we do this?
Can we do this for you? And I was like, I don't know, can you do it? So I then start taking it apart, and and they're like looking at the clip, the slot tolerances, like, no, we really can't. And most of them they just can't do it.
Yeah.
So, and one of our manufacturers, we've actually kind of worked with them to make special 2-part tools that allows us to
bespoke battle systems tools.
Yeah, really, because it's kind of registration of die cutting blades and pressures and all sorts of stuff that you don't realise goes into and every time we do a set. And the multi-level dungeon, and Maladum is no exception. I'm pushing that limit. I'm kind of pulling down the tolerances, and I kind of hand it over, and the manufacturer's going, "This is great, but what have you done over here?" I was like, "Don't worry, I'm sure you can figure it out." So we've got this beautiful multi-level dungeon. The artwork is along with Maladum is kind of a second to none compared to our original dungeon, and we've got this kind of we've got this modularity to it, which same as Maladum, you can set this up any way you like. It's like Lego, you know, so you can have any shaped dungeon you want. You just have fun with that. We're working that into a multi-level dungeon as well, and I've already built quite a few different examples of it, but it just works really well. So you have a nice rope bridge going across a chasm over it. Yeah, it's beautiful, isn't it? And again, we're pushing tolerances on, you know, some of the die cutting on that. Some of our factories are going to just be scratching their chin for a bit, but it's fine. And we've got this. And so we've got this multi-level dungeon, and with some of our multi-level sets we've done in the past, we've got like with the city block and our urban stuff where you lift things off. That's great for that. But for this, I've designed it so that we don't have, you get all the multi-level aspect, but without any of the lift-off stuff. Yeah. So what it means is that
you can see what's going on. You can reach in.
You can, you know, and you can really just and because everything's, you know, when you're playing, everything's on its own little dashboards and stuff. You really can just pick your stuff up and move around as you adventure around. But still on a nice 2x2 kind of fit on your tabletop.
Perfect. I'm thinking about what we record,
like
2x2 boards, built up. But like you said, just being able to kind of get in and reach in, and whether you're playing Maladum or using this for any other purpose, just being able to see where the action is and know exactly what's happening in that room without, like you said, having to lift off a roof. Or let me move the bridge out of the way for a second. It's just that I can reach in, I can move that, I can tell you exactly how many squares I want to move.
Absolutely. And you know, normally you play a fantasy game, if you want something like big and epic, you need to kind of stretch it out this way. But because we've got this smaller footprint, but you've got the multi-level,
you've still got the intensity.
You've still got the kind of time it takes you to get. So you've still got quite a long adventure because you've got like equivalent of a level here, and the next level would be take up this space, and the next level. So you've still got a lot of area to play through, and that's a big advantage as well. Of course, the main advantage over all of that is that when you're done, you flat pack it away. Yeah. There's no painting required. It's ready to game straight from the box. You don't have to paint it or do any of that. So, you know, you can concentrate on painting your miniatures really nice and not have to worry about the terrain because we've done all the artwork for you. And of course, you know, pack it away, stick it away in a box. You know, this all packs down into the game box.
So I'm not going to annoy you and ask when or how, but is there anything you could kind of maybe allude to that you're hoping for perhaps in the future as this kind of does eventually hit retail, or any thoughts knocking around your head of where this goes next?
So I think that...
So scroll comes out now.
You know, what can I talk about? I'll get a slap on the wrist, whatever I talk about, so I'll just go for it. I think that, again, similar to Core Space, because Core Space has been so incredibly popular, for me, what Maladum as a game represents is locations. Yeah. So when we did Core Space, we did the second Core Space. It wasn't like it wasn't replacing original Core Space. It was just like
this too now. You can also
go over here. You know, this is all our lovely cyberpunk space station stuff like this. How about this alien world where you've got all like, you know, these bit like Tomb-like really. We'll do the same with this. This is in a dungeon. You know, how about, you know, something set up on like a grassy lands with some, you know, kind of almost like northern settlement, maybe with some kind of
if you've not seen
barbarian
settlement terrain, it's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely, good. Yeah. And, you know, maybe the main enemy there, you know, maybe you'll be like a band of barbarians, maybe the main enemy would be the Orman, with kind of like an orcish, or maybe you'd be fighting against elves, or maybe you're fighting, and so that one will be external, and so you've got like more open areas, and you'll have a building, and you'll have, you know, it'll be a different environment, and that's the beauty of it, is that you can play a campaign through this and then take your adventurers that you've already got, that have got experience, and go, right, let's have them travel over here and handle this area and go through there and do that, and then later on it'll be like, okay, well, what about, you know, the icy mountains of Billabong or whatever, and you go and do it over there, and you have all. So for me, same with Core Space, and we're still doing it at Core Space, is building locations so that when you play, you could almost, if you like, look at the galaxy map and go, you know what, let's start over here. Yeah. And then what we'll do, we'll go over here and we'll do this thing, and then we'll take my guys over here, and maybe some really nasty stuff happens over here. And you're like, you know what, I'm going to go back over here.
This was safe. Let's go back.
Let's go back and do a little bit more like robbing of the dungeons and stuff to kind of get ourselves back and
gear up.
Absolutely, and that's another advantage of Core Space, is that you could be halfway through a campaign and you could get really get really punished. And you can always be like, okay, well, we're not ready to carry on. There's always this kind of side quest you can take. It's just like, you know what, I'm just going to do a little scavenger mission where I'm just going to go in and just give my crew some experience again, and you know, maybe hopefully meet a wandering traveller and
one little thing can suddenly get you ready to go.
And get me back and be like, right, is that village ready for me then? Do they still remember who we are?
Giant magical sword ready to go now.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I've got my sword. It's on fire. And we go. So it's kind of like that, really. It's just that's the plan with this. Like Core Space is to just bring out those locations.
Yeah.
We've got this lovely map of Enveron, which is and there's we're in the dungeons that are underneath the map. We're not even on the top, but there's all these different places. We've got the open fields of this area and the mountains of that area, and it's just there's so many beautiful places that we can visit, and that's what we'll do. We'll just keep doing it until we've just got this huge populated world.
It's fantastic. I mean, I'm really excited to play. I think we should play at this stage now. I think we should get ready to go. So stick around and we'll get a gameplay up coming to the channel soon. Massive thank you, Colin.
That's all right.
We'll see you in the next one. Hi guys, and thank you so much for watching our videos. It means the world to us. If you want to see some more, they should be over here. If you want to support this channel, keep these lights on. You can find links to our Patreon and merchandise in the description below. Take care.